Can anyone tell what I'm talking about today? It's not that obvious, is it? We've talked about four beasts or four creatures that are before the throne of God in the book of Revelation, chapter 4. And the last time I spoke, we talked about the oxen or the bull, and how the oxen and the bull symbolized power. But not only did it symbolize power, it symbolized the notion of the sacrificial system, because bulls were sacrificed on the days of atonement. It also talked about being equally yoked with Christ, and how he is the one who's showing us the way how to plow and bring forth a crop for God's kingdom here on earth. And then we spoke about the eagle the time before, and how the eagle symbolized the spirit, and how as an eagle we have to catch the right winds, the right spirit, and if we catch the right spirit and the right winds, we will soar and come into communion with God. And that transition that can transcend the human realm into the spiritual realm. We took the notion of the Shema, didn't we? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And we explained the fact that the mind or the heart were the same thing in the Old Testament. There's only the three things that are mentioned there. And then we talked about the spirit being the eagle, the soul. And then we talked about the lordship being the lion. And then the heart and the mind being the human being. Well, we're going to talk about the lion this morning. And when we talk about the lion, we talk about the notion of the concept of authority, rulership. Most people don't want to talk about discipline in this society, but as Christians, we are called to be what? Disciples. So if we are called to be disciples, we have to be disciplined people. And in the Bible, it talks very clearly about the father who disciplines his children truly loves his children. Those who do not discipline their children do not love their children. If you're a parent and all you want to be is your child's best friend, then you're not being a parent. You're just being a friend. And God's example is one who teaches and one who trains and one who shows a child the difference between what is good and what is evil. So many people nowadays want to teach their children about being happy. That's the primary requisite. But your child can be happy doing the wrong thing. God wants us to learn the difference between what is right and what is wrong. And sometimes we have to be sad. Sometimes we have to be frustrated. Sometimes we have to be angry. Why? Because if we're not in those positions, we don't learn the truth between right and wrong. If it's all about our will, it's not about his will. And a true child, is about the will of God. Seek first the kingdom of God, and all else will be added onto. Is that the truth in this life? It doesn't say. But there is a promise that all things will be added onto you, and you may not experience the fullness of the promise in this world. But I can bet you and guarantee you, because God is not a man that he should lie, that the promises to come in the next life far outweigh the experience that we have in this life. What you reap on earth, you will reap in heaven. Or what you sow on earth, you will reap in heaven. Isn't it amazing how our bodies, when we die, are often buried into the ground like a seed, ready to grow and break through the soil into a beautiful tree. The transformation in life after death is beyond compare. We just have a glimpse of it through our Lord Jesus Christ. But we're going on to another subject. Let's go back to the lion. Let's read the Revelation 4:6-7 text. And around the throne, on each side of the throne, are 4 living creatures, full of eyes in front and behind. The first living creature like a lion, the second living creature like an ox, the third living creature with the face of a man, and the fourth living creature like an eagle in flight. It is no coincidence that the lion comes first. Jesus says he is the Alpha and the Omega. He is the beginning and he is the end. He is the firstmost and he is the one to come. Beautiful example is that he is the Alpha male. Those who follow his kingdom bow down to his feet and follow his ways. But what kind of king is Christ? He's a servant king. That's why we can say the first will be the last, and the last will be the first. Because the example we have of a king is one who laid down his life, that others might be empowered to stand up in life. Those who were disenfranchised have now been welcomed in, and those who are full of themselves have been shown the doorway, where to go. Because at the end of the day, it's not about us, it's all about him. It's not about pride, it's about humility. And those who are full of pride will never open the doorway to the kingdom of God, because the king himself is humble. And he requires a people to humbly walk with him. The lion is first. Often when we're taught in schools and stuff about animals and lions, I don't know if you've been taught this, but I was taught this, that the male lion is lazy. He has an easy life. You couldn't get further from the truth. The male lion's life is far worse than the female lion's life. Only 5% of male lions born will have their genetic code carried on after them. Only 12.5% of all male lions will come through to maturity. And only 40% of them will have the honor of passing on their heritage. You see, when male lions are born into a pride, if their father remains head of that pride, they have 3 years in that pride. After the 3 years, they're kicked out. If they refuse to go, they're killed. If the father doesn't remain head of that pride, they're going to be killed anyway by the father that comes in place and takes the leadership. So what young male lions do, usually they're in a good place if they have brothers. If they don't have brothers, they're in a horrible place. Their life is likely never to make it to maturity because they're going to find it hard to get the food. So when the brothers are kicked out of the pride, they form a coalition, an alliance, and they hunt together, and they look after each other, and hopefully they'll come to an age of maturity and strength and power that they're able to take a pride of their own. How do they take a pride of their own? They attack the male lions that are looking after that particular pride. And they either kill them or shoo them off. Then they may have an opportunity to have children following on from that. But until the age of about, and this usually happens around about the age of 7. So 3 years in the pride, 4 years of wandering the wilderness, and then about the age of 7, they've got another 3 to 5 years left. And what usually ends up at the end of those glorious years of looking after the pride and having their own children is they're killed by other male lions. They don't die of old age, simply wandering off. They're usually hounded out of the pride. They starve to death. They die of their wounds from the battle that they fight. So the life of a male lion isn't all that good, isn't all that rosy. But what it does teach us is this factor when we realize that lions symbolize authority. All authority on earth is time limited. The mentality that people will rule forever is a false one, unless, of course, the lion has eternal life. So whoever you ally yourself to has a temporary power and authority over your life. And if you really want to be in the right place at the right time, you need to ally yourself to the one who never will die, or who has died and has rose again from death. We're going to find our main story or our main text in Ezekiel 19. And I'm going to be reading from the NIV. I know you'll have another version on there, but I like to read it from my main Bible and then break it down into sections afterwards. But here we are, Ezekiel 19. Take up a lament concerning the princes of Israel, and say, what a lioness was your mother among the lions. She lay down among them and reared her cubs. She brought up one of her cubs, and he became a strong lion. He learned to tear the prey, and he became a man-eater. The nations heard about him, and he was trapped in their pit. They led him with hooks to the land of Egypt. When she saw her hope unfulfilled, her expectation gone, she took another of her cubs and made him a strong lion. He prowled among the lions, for he was now a strong lion. He learned to tear the prey, and he became a man-eater also. He broke down their strongholds and devastated their towns. The land and all who were in it were terrified by his roaring. Then the nations came against him, those from regions round about. They spread their net for him, and he was trapped in their pit. With hooks they pulled him into a cage and brought him to the king of Babylon. They put him in prison, so his roar was heard no longer on the mountains of Israel. Some people, when they read the book of Ezekiel, get confused. They take things literally. The book of Ezekiel is a very metaphorical book. It's all about pictures and analogies and examples and prophetic dreams and vocations which are speaking forth what is happening in the here and now and what will happen in the hereafter. You know, when we talk about the Revelation chapter 4 text, it's based on the book of Ezekiel. When it talks about the four creatures at the throne, we see that in the very first chapter of Ezekiel, where it talks about the chariot of God. And underneath the chariot of the God, you've got the oxen, the lion, the eagle, and the human being. And here in this book, he's talking about lions and lionesses. But he starts off this prophecy talking about the princes of Judah. And so when we talk about the princes of Judah, we are talking about the rule and authority of God's kingdom on earth. And this rule and authority of God's kingdom on earth has gone awry. It's got itself into trouble. The kings and the princes, instead of ruling righteously and ruling with all the authority that God has given them, have abandoned God's covenant, have abandoned God's rule, have started to oppress God's people, have started to become wealthy for themselves, and have started to celebrate their relationships with other kings and nations in the area. They become man-eaters. And man-eaters are always in danger. Why are they in danger? Can anyone tell me why a man-eater might be in danger? Shout out, don't be shy. It will be hunted. It has to be hunted. Why? Because if it's not hunted, it will kill more men. And the thing is, for lions, is as powerful they are and as strong as they are and as high up in the food chain they are, they're not as clever as man. They're not as wily as man. They don't have the access to technology as man. And man knows the habits of the lion. Man knows its weaknesses and it knows its strengths. And a true hunter respects its prey. When a man-eater attacks, it does not respect who it's attacking. Because what is the truth about man? And this is another sermon that we could go on to when we talk about man. But man is made in whose image? In God's image. So when the lion starts to attack man, who is the lion attacking? God. In 1 Peter, it talks about the lion who attacks man. Who is he? Satan, the devil, the adversary, the enemy of human nature, of humankind, of God's people. He prowls like a lion, seeking to devour, seeking to kill. The shame of it was that this nation was supposed to be representing God. It was representing the enemy. Genesis 49, 8-10, though, was the prophecy over the kingdom of Judah by Jacob, Judah's father. Judah, you are whom your brothers shall praise. Your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's children shall bow down before you. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, you have gone up. He bows down. He lies down as a lion. And as a lion, who shall rise him? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from his feet, until Shiloh comes, and to him shall be the obedience of the people. This is almost like a preformer of the promise that God makes to David through the prophet, that he is going to have a descendant that will rule on the throne forever. But in the same passage, God warns that if he goes away from who God is and does his own thing, then God will discipline him with an iron rod. There's a promise, but the promise is not being fulfilled. The promise is not being fulfilled because mankind is too busy doing his own thing and not seeking to do the will of God. But there is hope for the mother lioness. She's got another cub, another opportunity. In the first case, we see the lion is bound in chains and taken to Egypt. This is a shame because the prophecy that came from Baal in the time of Numbers was God brings him out of Egypt. And for him, like the horns of the wild ox, he shall eat up the nations. His adversaries shall break their bones in pieces and pierce them with many arrows. He crouched, he lay down like a lion and a lioness. Who will rouse him up? Blessed are those who bless you, and cursed are those who curse you. This was the promise over Israel. You will be like a lion. Those who bless you will bless you. Those who curse you will be curse you. You've come out of Egypt, and yet the situation has changed. They find themselves now bound and heading back to Egypt. The mother lion has another son. She raises him up, and yet he is captured. he is taken to Babylon. And there's almost a sense with this whole text that all hope is gone. But we know the story, don't we? That there is one who is still promised to come. There's a beautiful chapter in Micah chapter 5, verse 2 and verses 8 to 9. But you, O Bethlehem, who are too little to be among the clans of Judah, from you shall come forth for me one who is to be ruler in Israel, whose coming forth is from old, from ancient days. And the remnant of Jacob shall be among the nations, in the midst of many peoples, like a lion among the beasts of the forest, like a young lion among the flocks of sheep, which when it goes through treads down and tears into pieces, and there is none to deliver. Your hand shall be lifted up over your adversaries, and all your enemies shall be cut off. This is a powerful prophecy. The problem with this prophecy was that was not the situation at the time. The situation at the time was one of the kings had been carried off to Egypt. Another of the kings was being carried off to Babylon. The people were in desolation. The temple was destroyed. People had no hope. There was darkness in the land. And in the midst of the darkness, the lion roared. We find in the text in Ezekiel that when the lion was captured, before he was captured, he was roaring. Does anyone know what a symbol of a lion roar? Why do lions roar? Can anyone tell me why lions roar? Can't hear you. Why do lions roar? Dominance? Anything else? Presence? What? Power? So these are all good words. Dominance, presence, power. Tell you, how many people would still be in this room if you heard a lion roaring in this room? How many of you? You'd be running out the doorway. Why would you be running out the doorway? Fear. Why did they lock up the lion who was roaring? They were afraid. They were afraid. When a lion roars, it signals two things. First of all, this is my territory. Okay? So when a new male lion comes into a territory that it's not its own, it starts to challenge the old lion by roaring. It's a challenge to those who own the territory. I'm here. This is my domain. I'm ready to fight you. I'm ready to destroy you. I'm ready to kill you, and I'm ready to kill your progeny. That's what a lion means when it's roaring. And the due response is that the lion who owns the territory will roar back, and then they'll come together. Now, part of the power and the strength is how many they've got in their coalition. You know, some coalitions recently, you've had up to 6 members in that coalition fighting against 1 or 2 lions. You know who's going to win. Regardless of how big the 2 male lions are, if they're fighting 6 lions all at once, they're going to be in trouble. So what the 2 male lions tend to do is they tend to pick them off when they're one by one. And they'll rip them to shreds. What they'll do is they'll go for the base of the spine and they'll break the spine. So the lion will walk like this because it can't move. They keep biting at the spine to break the back. And you hear it crack when it's defeated. And this is no joke, because this is what Ezekiel is talking to God's people. Is he's saying that there is a challenge to the authority and the power of God in the environment that you find yourself in. And if you are not ready or prepared to fight, you are going to be paralyzed. You're being set upon. You're going to be destroyed. Because at the end of the day, the enemy that comes against you is not some pussycat that you could just stroke. It's going to tear you to shreds. Have you ever seen a lion tear its prey to shreds? You know, when a lion goes for a gazelle or an oxen or any other beast, it goes for the throat. And the reason why it goes for the throat is because it wants to suffocate the animal. And once the animal's suffocated and it's down and it's lost all its power, it'll rip its throat out, claw it to pieces, shed it, and then share it with the rest of the animals and that thing. I'm painting a very vivid picture, and the reason why I'm painting a very vivid picture is because sometimes in our Christian faith, we forget the environment that we live in. The environment that we live in does not tolerate Christianity, does not tolerate Jesus, does not tolerate the scriptures. The reason why it doesn't tolerate these things is because it knows the power behind these things. Behind the world is a power that is fearful of the challenger who has come. Why is he fearful of the challenger who has come? He tried to kill him. He tried to destroy him. Psalm 22, 13, 16 to 21 was very clear as to what the enemy was trying to do to God's anointed king. And this was David speaking, but speaking prophetically about his descendant, Jesus. They open wide their mouths at me, like a ravening and roaring lion. For dogs, and dogs often in the Bible was symbolic of Gentiles, encompass me. A company of evildoers encircle me. They have pierced my hands and feet. How can he know this? How can he say this? As far as I read in the Bible, I don't see anywhere in the Bible where it says about David having his hands and his feet pierced. But prophetically, David is in the throne room worshiping God, and he's pouring out his heart to God about what's going on in his world and in his time. And somehow he is seemingly connected into the future and brought the future back into the past so people can see that Jesus is who he says he is and has done what he has done. There's no other literature like it. No other story like it. There is no story. I challenge you to find a story out there in humanity where you have somebody 2,000 years ago in the past speaking about somebody else who's 2,000 years in our past, and speaking so prophetically and so precisely that it even names how that person will die and how that person will be treated. How does he know? Because the person he is speaking about was speaking to him. You were the Word in the beginning, the one with God Most High, the hidden voice in creation, now revealed in you, the Christ. And when we talk about that word Christ, we are talking about the Lion of Judah. We're talking about the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And those who do not bow the knee to him woe betide when they meet the Lion. For you will be torn to shreds. Just as the enemy tears God's people to shreds, God will judge those who seek not to bow the knee to his Son. Psalm chapter 2. Kiss the Son. Be wary, because how you treat the Son is how you will be treated. Every attack that comes against him will be reflected back on the one who made the attack. He is a gracious God, but he is also a God of justice, a God of rule and righteousness. He put the sins of the world on his Son's shoulders, but those who do not recognize the Son for who he is will die to their sin and will not be resurrected into the new life. It talks very clearly in Revelation about two resurrections. The first resurrection is the good place to be. It's the resurrection of the Spirit. It's the born-again experience. The second resurrection is the resurrection of judgment, where God judges the world. And it talks about the fiery lake of fire that is the result of their judgment. It's not the dwelling place of Satan, by the way. It's the death of Satan. It's the destruction of Satan. It's a punishment. You think hell is a fiery place? You know what? You've been reading it wrong, because that's the story of the Greek mythological gods. Because when Christianity was taken by the Roman Empire and turned into the Catholic Church, they merged Greek mythology with Christianity. And they changed the truth. And what does Jesus say? The truth will set you free. He has come. He is the lion roaring. Isaiah 40, 3-5 and 9 gives a prophecy that will be spoken of John the Baptist. A voice of one calling in the wilderness. Who calls in the wilderness? The lion. John the Baptist was the lion. And he came. Prepare the way for the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. And the glory of the Lord will be revealed, and all people will see it together, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. You who bring good news to Zion, go up on high mountain. You who bring good news to Jerusalem, lift up your voice with a shout. Lift it up, do not be afraid, say to the towns of Judah, here is your God. Some people turn around, and particularly Muslims, they turn around and say, Jesus never said that he was God. If you read this particular scripture about John the Baptist, the one who goes before him, who is he going before? Is it a man? No, behold your God. And at the same time, he is a man. He's a God man. You know, when we talk about being made in the image of God, do we find it so hard to believe that God looks like a man? The Bible's very clear. It says that right at the beginning, that he made man in his image. Now, some people try to theorize and sort of like intellectualize that actually image might just mean rule and authority. But could it actually mean that God made us to look like him? When you read the scriptures in the Old Testament, how many times does it see that the God appears as a man standing while they're eating the food on the mountain? Or also when he goes and visits Abraham at the oaks of Mamre, he comes as a man. It says when he spoke to Samuel, the word came before him and he touched his mouth. You were the word at the beginning, and the alpha male. Judgment, intervention, and Passover. It's beautiful. Forgiveness is part of God's character, but also faithfulness to fulfill his promises. Matthew 27, 28-31, he was not without his own challenges. If you go through life thinking that you're going to go through life with no challenges as a Christian, you're in the wrong faith. You want to be somebody else, that's fine. But the truth be known, without the cross, there is no resurrection. Without the suffering, there is no fruit. You know, the best wine has to mature. It has to age. It It has to have experience. It has to go through life and all its hardship to form something which is truly beautiful. Without that formation process, the wine tastes cheap and is not really worth drinking. But here he is. Matthew 27, 28, 31. The fulfillment of Psalm 22. And they stripped him, the bulls of Bashan, the lions that were trying to eat him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him. When they had twisted a crown of thorns, they put it on his head and a reed in his right hand. And they bowed the knee before him and mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews." Then they spat on him and took the reed and struck him on his head. And when they had mocked him, they took the robe off him, put his own clothes on him, and led him away to be crucified. Now, we've gone through, as a nation, a coronation of the King of England, filled with lavish dinners, fancy robes, beautiful songs and music and decorative carriages and all these different things that we see when we associate with royalty, when we associate with kingship. This is the coronation of Jesus. You know, when he was on the Passover story and he was Palm Sunday, they were putting the leaves down on the thing and they're saying, "Hail the one." This was a coronation procession. And it went from the crowd glorifying him to the crowd vilifying him. And at the end of his vilification, he had the crown of thorns put on his head. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen how the thorns would have been put on his head, but it would have been pretty horrific because the thorns were at least probably an inch in size. So if you take a blade, probably about an inch inside, and then you just scrape it down the side of somebody's head, you're going to have big stripe marks where the cutting and the bleeding is taking place. Not only that, they whipped him with a leather bite with metal shards in it, and it would have taken off the skin off his back, so when he was carrying his cross, he would have struggled to breathe. When he was lying on the cross, he couldn't lay back because it would cause so much pain, it would take the oxygen out of his lungs. What a coronation. What a crowning. It almost looks like every element of authority is abusive, destructive, seeking to destroy and oppress the people. Yet the very one who came to save us from that lifestyle was oppressed himself. But that's not where the story ends. Revelation 5, 1-5. And I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a scroll written inside, and on the back sealed with 7 seals. These scrolls themselves are judgments. God is about to judge the world. God is about to judge those who are in rule and authority and power, and every nation, every people has to give an account before the Lord, but nobody is able to take the scroll. Nobody is in that place of saying, "I passed the test." And here it is being read out, and John is crying because nobody is worthy to read the scroll, but the angel says to him, or the elders say to him, "Do not weep. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has prevailed to open the scroll and to loose its 7 seals." The beauty of it is, when we talk about judgment, when we talk about the wrath of God, we have to understand who holds the scroll. He who is without sin, cast the first stone. And what does he do? He's standing there, the lady's been caught in adultery, and he starts to draw in the sand. And all those who are the accusers, who's the accuser of the brethren? The enemy, it's Satan. All those about to strike the stone. I mean, I don't know what Jesus was drawing in the sand, but I think it was the sins of the people who were about to judge the lady herself. And he would have exposed them if they had carried on. So they had to drop the stones and move on. Give your life to Jesus. He is the only hope of salvation. Those who put their hope in other things have got a lot of things to answer for. Put your hope in Jesus. He will deliver you. He will save you. I want to close with this. Micah 6, verse 8. He has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice, and to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God. This is Christ. This is Jesus. He was just. He was kind. Another word of saying that love kindness is steadfast love. He was faithful. He was obedient. He walked with God. And he calls us to do the same. I want us to stand and worship him.